first month of 2026. I just want to greet you Happy New Year. Good to be back and good to see everyone. Our passage today is built around two rhetorical questions. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Let me set the stage for us. The people of Israel were angry with God. The nation is complaining to him that he acted as though he did not know the situation or have any concern for the problems. The prophet Isaiah addresses the people's lack of memory. The question intends to reverse their accusations. The words in Isaiah chapter 40 are aimed at the Israelites during Babylonian exile. They've suffered for decades under brutal oppression and now wondering if God has forgotten them. After seeing Jerusalem invaded and the temple of Yahweh destroyed, and after the discouraging experience of captivity, Israel feels helpless and rejected. They interpret their experience to mean that either God no longer cares or he is less powerful than the Babylonian and their gods. Suffering shapes their perception, and now they can see the world only through the narrow lens of their present reality. God's eternal covenantal love and his place in the world as the unrivaled, all-powerful Creator is forgotten. He now seems distant and unresponsive toward them, and their hope is waning, if not gone. The prophet Isaiah is led of the Lord to write about the omnipotence and greatness of our God. There's nothing that a discouraged person needs more than this. Isaiah said they needed to relearn what they already knew. They didn't need new information, they needed to remember. We all tend to forget in the middle of our problems. That is one of the reasons why we need God's word preached to us every week, not because we need new information, but because we so quickly forget what we already know to be true. In Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28 says, "The Lord is everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom." What did they need to remember? What we need to remember. In our gospel reading, the passage begins by establishing God's identity. First, the Lord is the everlasting God. Rooted in Hebrew, El-Olam means God is eternal or rock of ages, without beginning or end, existing outside of time, unchanging and always present, representing his infinite, consistent, and dependable nature. His nature, words, and plans never alter, providing a reliable foundation. This divine attribute provides a foundation of trust, as his timelessness guarantees his promises and presence throughout all generations, offering unending love and hope and guidance. In a changing world, he is the rock eternal, a source of unwavering hope and stability. In Psalms chapter 90 in verse 1 and 2 says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the earth and the world from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. In Genesis chapter 21 and verse 23, Abraham used the name El-Olam to affirm God's faithfulness to his eternal covenants and promises. God is eternal. All we see right now, this present moment, God isn't like that. God experiences the past, present, and future simultaneously, unlike humans bound by time. God is not confined to time. In his sweeping eternality, God is equally present to all points of time at once. He is always out ahead of us. So we should never panic if things aren't falling together according to our deadlines. God is working his purpose out in his own way, at his own pace, without our hurried, nervous desperation. This is no greater study, no greater pursuit than to earnestly seek the truth about God. Isaiah declared in another part of this book, chapter 55, verse 6, seek the Lord. In fact, Jesus, during his earthly ministry, as he preached the Sermon on the Mount, as recorded in Matthew, proclaimed, but seek ye. Why is this so important? The value may seem obvious, but so many people, for so many different reasons, have dismissed the discipline of knowing God. The ramification or the result have suddenly become clear. Sin seems to abound. Victory over transgression seems elusive. Faith has replaced by doubt and fear, because this is a natural human reaction leading us to forget God's actions in the past. Second, to remember, Creator of the ends of the earth. The Israelites doubted there was a God who created all. They don't see that the fact there is a God of all creation makes a difference in everyday life. The prophet Isaiah reminds Israel of God's greatness to counter their despair and forgetfulness during exile, to assure them that the God who made the entire world can easily protect and provide for them even in distant lands like Babylon. It serves as a comfort, letting people know God is in control and present even when they feel exhausted, lost, or overwhelmed by life's troubles. The praised Creator of the ends of the earth emphasizes his boundless power to sustain all things and his knowledge of every distant place. Meaning, he's always there for his people, not limited by geography or time. He speaks God's infinite strength, his tireless ability that actively upholds all things. His strength is constant, unwavering force, sufficient for every need. If he has made everything, we never need to worry that any of it is beyond his control. A creator is one who makes something new. People can create art projects, musical compositions and physical structures. However, they always have something to work with. They begin with pre-existing matter and form it in new ways. God had no such raw materials to work with. When we say God is the creator, we mean that he is truly creative in a category all by himself because he started with nothing. In Colossians chapter 1 in verse 16 says, "For by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him." If you have problems, and we all do, take a good look at God. Remind yourself who he is. Move from despair to God's greatness. As we look around us in the world, we see his handiwork. In Psalms 19 in verse 1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands." So if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by life, if you find your faith faltering, go outside and take a few minutes to just stop and look at the Creator. Think about what you know about God creating the world. Third, to remember, he will not grow tired and weary. The phrase emphasizes the infinite strength of God. God is unlike humans who grow weary and stumble. God is infinitely strong than the greatest human strength. God is portrayed as an omnipotent and eternal being, while humans are characterized by inherent physical, mental, and spiritual limitation. God does not need rest, sleep, or replenishment. As described, humans as described in the Bible in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 20, all come from dust and all return to dust. In James chapter 4 and verse 14, a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. The Christian theological concept of humans have built the limitation and weaknesses physically, morally, and spiritually. This acknowledges that human life is transient, vulnerable, and prone to physical, moral, spiritual weakness, the tendency to sin, and eternal struggle to do good despite a desire to do evil. In Romans chapter 7, verse 18 to 19, Paul said, he wants to do the right thing. Still he ends up doing the sinful thing he hates. In verse 24, he said, "What a rich man I am! Who will rescue me from this body that is subject to death?" In verse 29 to 30, this is the promise. And it says, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youth grew tired and weary, and young men stumbled and fall." God, as the Creator, offering strength and renewal to those who hope in him. God's tireless ability to provide strength for his people, contrasting his eternal power with human frailty. He will not grow tired and weary, that while humans get exhausted, the Creator of the universe is limitless source of energy. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Human power runs out quickly when faced with overwhelming circumstances or spiritual battles. The loads of life and personal trials can lead to burnout and discouragement. Loads of life and physical trials that can lead to exhaustion often stem from major life events, ongoing stressors, and unmet expectations. Common examples of this include loss and grief, the death of a loved one, the end of significant relationship, or any substantial loss can be a major source of discouragement. Health issues, personal illness, dealing with new diagnosis, a chronic health condition, or injury can be emotionally and physically draining. Caring for others, the strength of caring for an ill family member or loved one can also lead to significant emotional strain and feeling overwhelmed. Financial hardship, money, worries, debt, jobless, unemployment, unexpected expenses, or the inability to provide for basic necessities can also cause considerable anxiety and hopelessness. Relationship challenges, conflict with family, friends, or spouse, betrayal, loneliness, and a lack of social support can erode a person's well-being and lead to downheartedness. Career and academic pressures, job insecurity, high-pressure work environment, unfulfilling work, academic demands, and career setbacks can contribute to feelings of failure and frustration, fatigue and overwhelm, physical and emotional exhaustion from ongoing responsibilities. A heavy workload or everyday rubbish can lower one's defenses, making it easier to become discouraged. External pressures, social pressures, discrimination, injustice, criticism from others, or a general fear of the unknown can also contribute to a loss of courage and hope. I think there's a lot of Christians walking around. At one point in the past, they have hope and optimism that God would help them. They believe when they called out to God that God heard and answered. And then something happened that changed all of that. They were hurt. They felt alone. They found themselves calling out with the psalmist, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And from that point forward, they found themselves living differently. My guess is that each of us have had times in our lives when we really need God's help and it didn't seem like God gave that help. We find ourselves in that situation feeling abandoned, uncared for. If God is our Father, we feel like orphans. But here in Isaiah, this has happened over decades of being oppressed, being far from home, and living in a place where everyone worships other gods. God's people are weak and powerless. Friend, you may find yourself under the pressure of life, poverty, depression, confusion, humiliation. But remember, God is greater. His power is greater than any struggle, any problem. God, by His power, caused the blind to see, the deaf to hear, the dead to come to life, and can reach into your situation, and by His power can cause you to overcome, can bring healing to your life, and can bring restoration to your soul. He never tried. He never exhausted. The strongest among us doesn't have what it takes. Human strength at its best, in its prime, will inevitably fail. We're no match for the demands of life, but we're not doomed to our own potential. There is power beyond our souls. The word says, He gives power to the faint, to the weak, He increases His strength. When you are weary and feel like you can't go on, God promises that He will be your source of power and endurance. That God lifts up the broken and empower the weak. You don't have to rely on your own power, but on His. He provides the strength needed to face difficulties and keep moving forward no matter how challenging the situation may seem. The promise presents a different way to approach life's struggles. It encourages a mindset of faith and reliance on God's power rather than self-sufficiency as a way to find something, to find strength and overcome hardship. Inspired perseverance as you trust in Him. For to remember, His understanding no one can fathom. Eugene Peterson, in his paraphrased Bible, the Message puts it this way. And He knows everything inside out. God knows it all. Infinite knowledge. Understanding everything. Past, present, future, including all thoughts, events, facts, and possibilities with perfect clarity and no surprises. It signifies a complete and intrinsic awareness of every detail in existence. From complex sciences to the smallest is powerful, making God the ultimate source and criterion of truth. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 29 to 30 says, Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. In verse 30 says, And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Infinite wisdom points to the idea that a divine being's knowledge isn't limited like ours. He knows the beginning from the end and sees all complexities. Life is confusing. Life is complicated. We are overwhelmed by all the cares of the world. Then there is God. He doesn't just know all things. He knows us. He knows our thoughts, our concerns, our fears, our heartaches. He knows what we need to grow in Him. Because He knows everything inside and out, we can have confidence in Him. Because God knows it all, it is reassuring to us. We do not need to understand everything. The writer of Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 to 6 is a well-known biblical passage that encourages complete reliance on God rather than self-understanding, saying, Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He shall direct your paths. It's a call for a wholehearted faith, acknowledging God in every aspect of life with the promise that He will guide and make one's way clear, even when personal comprehension fails. Trusting God is made easier when we come to terms that He is all-knowing. It is truth that declares his authority. In verse 31, the call to wait. But before that, I will read Isaiah 55, verse 8 to 9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither your ways are my ways." In verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." In the New King James Version, the first phrase says, "But those who wait on the Lord." When we're suffering, we tend to see only the present moment. Our perception narrows and we experience despair. The good news is that waiting or hoping is about a different way of seeing the world, an expansion of our perception through memory. The Hebrew verb translated as wait is kava, the feeling of expectation or anticipation. That's why kava sometimes translated feeling of expectation or anticipation or hope, and here specifically the prophet Isaiah invites readers to kava, to wait or to hope, not to wait for the best solution as we see it, or for our circumstances to improve, but to wait for the Lord. By directing us to wait specifically for God, we realize that the resolution or the tension release we are anticipating is found only in God. So when we experience those tense, exhausting circumstances that scream it's hopeless, we can avoid the trap of thinking that real strength and hope are only possible when things are good. And we can learn from Isaiah and the whole story of the Bible that the expected release of tension we wait for is found only in God, who transformed despair into endurance and powerlessness into purpose. Waiting is about a posture of active recalling, which the text itself models by literally giving us a way to remember. The people of Israel find their consolation in remembering the identity of their God. Comfort is rooted in memory. Hope of God is framed as remembering who He is. By actively recalling what is true about God, believers become like eagles, powerful, strong. They have the ability to rise above difficult circumstances. Just as eagles use wind current to rise great heights, eagles use the winds of a storm to allow him to soar higher. They do not allow them to drag them lower. Running without weariness. The power to move forward with purpose and endurance. The ability to continue on one's life journey without becoming exhausted. Walking without fainting. The strength to simply keep going without giving up. A steady, persistent pace that does not give up or collapse. Let me share you this writing. The title is, "I Know God Doeth All Things Well." I do not always know what lies before me or what of trial or test may be in store. My steps are ordered. God will do the choosing. He knows the way I take. Need I know more? I do not know the reason for each testing. The lessons I must learn, I cannot tell, or why I'm led through valleys deep and lonely. I only know he doeth all things well. If the paths I walk seems steep and rugged, and I must labor long to reach the goal, there's always one close by my side to help me. He brings sweet rest and comfort to my soul. And from the pages of God's book before me, he speaks the words that all my fears dispel. And though I do not know the why nor wherefore, I can be sure he doeth all things well. Then I will rest in him and take fresh courage and trust his promise not to leave me ever. New strength supplied to carry on the battle. New hope that I, the victor's crown, shall wear. It is enough to be of God beloved, to have the Lord within my heart to dwell, to have the peace that passeth understanding, content to know he doeth all things well. To close, let me share this article, Trust God's Plan. You relax on a bus when you don't know the driver. You relax on a boat when you don't know the captain. You relax on a plane when you don't know the pilot. If you can trust strangers with your safety, why not trust the one who holds your future? So why not relax in life knowing that God is in control? Stop stressing and stop worrying. Just let go. Keep doing your part just like the driver does theirs. Because when you trust the right hands, everything falls